Every time I bring up this concept, it triggers some golfers so badly. In this video, I want to talk about why 3-woods are the devil. Yes, it might anger a few people, and I'm genuinely not trying to be controversial, but I know this is going to help a lot of you think differently about tee shot strategy, why safety clubs might not be as safe as you think, and how equipment works. Hi, my name is Jon Sherman. I'm the author of the best-selling book, The 4 Foundations of Golf. And on this channel, I am not peddling swing tips. I'm going to teach you how to actually play this game. So if you've been playing golf for a long time, it's likely that you were taught to hit shorter clubs off the tee to have more control. And if you were like me, you looked at every hole for an excuse not to hit your driver. Well, it turns out that this isn't a great way to play if you want to shoot your lowest scores. It wasn't until I embraced my driver and really started to commit to hitting it as much as possible that I finally broke through in my game. And this isn't a video about wanting you all to bash your driver 300 yards on every single hole. This is actually more important for golfers who hit their driver less than 250 yards, because we now know that distance off the tee is actually worth more strokes to these players than it is to the longer hitters. In other words, if you don't have crazy swing speed and start laying back off the tee, you are making this game way harder for yourself. And what a lot of golfers have still not considered is that distance costs strokes. For a typical golfer, which I would say is about a 15 handicap, if they choose a club that's 30 yards shorter off the tee, all things being equal, they're gonna lose about 1/4 to 1/3 of a stroke. And over a full round, this adds up considerably. Now, of course, you're thinking, well, I hit those shorter clubs materially straighter. I'm gonna get to that in a bit, but bear with me for a little bit here. By deciding to take a shorter club, you're gonna make your second shot materially harder. Obviously, we choose the shorter club because we wanna hit more fairways, that's obvious. But successful tee shots isn't just about hitting fairways. It's more about advancing the ball as far as possible while avoiding big trouble like trees and hazards. It turns out that most of the rough is actually not that big of a penalty. It's worth about the same amount as that 30 yards I just discussed, which is about 1/4 to 1/3 of a stroke for a lot of players. In other words, if you hit your driver 230 yards in the rough, it's the equivalent to hitting a 200-yard shot in the fairway. But here's the thing, you don't know beforehand if you're gonna miss that fairway with your driver or if you're gonna hit the fairway with that shorter club. It's an educated guess. So a lot of times golfers are defaulting to that shorter club because it makes them feel a bit safer and in more control. And golfers love to feel like they're in control, but they're not fully considering the scoring implications. Really what you're doing is kicking the can down the road a bit and now putting more pressure on your approach clubs. So if you wanna play your best golf, your first thought on the tee box, and I'm gonna borrow a line from Scott Fawcett here, is there a good reason not to hit driver? Actually, I'd prefer if you do this planning even before you step on the golf course. Now let's talk about why 3-woods are the devil and below the myth of safety clubs in general. Obviously, I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek with the 3-wood thing, but hey, it's YouTube. I've got to get people to click. And just a quick plug, if you are enjoying my channel, it's been really fun getting to start this thing and seeing it grow so quickly. I kind of joked around on Twitter that I've never said like and subscribe, but someone who is pretty smart at YouTube told me that I should ask people to subscribe because it shows the algorithm that you care about my content. So if you do like what I'm putting out there, please like, subscribe, comment, and show YouTube that this is valuable information, and I thank everyone for watching. All right, let's get back into it. For the sake of simplicity, there are 2 reasons why you would choose a club other than your driver off the tee. The first is you think the hole is narrow and a shorter club will help you with accuracy, and the second reason is that there's trees, OB, or a hazard that driver will bring into play because you're carrying it too far. Now, the second reason makes perfect sense. If there's a water hazard that you can reach with your driver, by all means, you gotta lay back. And again, the point of this video is not to tell you to hit driver every single time. Obviously, you're gonna face plenty of holes where it's not the right play. But let's talk about the first point, choosing a shorter club because you wanna hit it straighter and get it on the fairway. I always love to review data from real golfers on the course, so I checked the ShotScope database of millions of shots to see if there was any material difference in fairways hit between a 3-wood and a driver. And funny enough, there isn't. At every handicap level, the percentages of fairways hit between driver and 3-wood were were pretty much identical. But what's worse, these golfers were giving up anywhere between 15 to 30 yards when choosing their 3-wood over their driver. Hitting it shorter and not straighter is not a good trade-off. Now, I know there are exceptions and everyone's gonna fill the comment sections with why you are the special unicorn. But let me explain to you why this is the case for a lot of golfers. It has to do with club head design. 3-woods are designed to be hit off the ground, whereas drivers are designed to be hit off the tee. I mean, look at the difference in the size of these faces. It's massive. Drivers have way more forgiveness built into them because of this. You've likely heard of a term called MOI, or moment of inertia. It's essentially a measure of forgiveness. So on off-center strikes with driver, fairway woods, or even your hybrids, when you miss the center of the face, two things are going to happen. First, you're gonna lose ball speed because you missed the sweet spot, also known as the center of gravity. So the ball's not gonna travel as far. The second thing that happens is the club face will twist open or closed and something called gear effect will occur. So for a right-handed golfer, if they strike it towards the heel, the ball's actually gonna slice more, and for a toe strike, you're gonna get more hook spin. But when you have more MOI built into the club face, you're gonna reduce that distance loss, and gear effect will not be as prominent. So in other words, the ball can fly a little bit farther and straighter. But here's the thing, modern drivers have about 2 to 3 times the MOI as a 3-wood. That is a massive advantage for distance and accuracy. And because golfers are missing the center of the face on most shots, it partially explains why 3-woods don't go as far or as straight as you would think. The face is not that large compared to the driver, and your mishits are going to be penalized more than your driver. Now, I know all of you are unique snowflakes, and there might be some of you that are really good with your 3-wood compared to your driver. For whatever reason, you hit it straighter and have a lot of confidence with it. By all means, if it's working for you, then stick with it. But I'm gonna bet a decent amount of money that if most of you started tracking your shots on the course with a system like Arcos, Tangent, or ShotScope, and you could see a visual representation of your shots off the tee, or let's say you went to a simulator with TrackMan or Foresight and started testing the dispersions with these clubs, I think you're gonna be pretty surprised. I've done this test with my driver and all of the shorter clubs I used off the tee, and I was actually shocked that I was way more crooked with my 3-wood, hybrid, or even 4-iron off the tee, and I'm a pretty good ball striker. The truth is, just because you pull a shorter club does not mean you get to place the ball in the fairway. You might still hit it into a fairway bunker or pull hook it into the trees. The only thing you've guaranteed yourself is that you're gonna be much farther from the hole with your second shot, thus putting you at a scoring disadvantage. Golf is a game of proximity. The closer you are to the hole, the better the chance you have at posting a lower score. This game is literally one big gray area, and there are no guarantees. And we have to do our best to make decisions with incomplete information. Again, I'm not telling you to hit driver on every single hole. For example, if it blows you through a dogleg into a trees, then it's obviously not the right club, but you probably should be using it on a lot of your tee shots. Aside from people getting angry and calling me an idiot whenever I say this, one of the most common responses is that golfers have a mental block with their driver and they simply can't hit it and feel more comfortable with a 3-wood. I hear you, I did too for a really long time. But if you lock up your driver in a box and essentially avoid it at all costs, you have to understand that you're playing this game with one hand tied behind your back a bit. Now, some golfers who have tremendous swing speed can get away with that, but they're outliers. There's really no material reason why you should be better with a fairway wood off the tee versus a club that has a much larger face and more forgiveness. And here's a solution that can help a lot of you. About 7 years ago, I decided to cut my driver down to almost 3-wood shaft length, and I cranked the loft up to about 13 degrees. You'll want to work with a club fitter when you do this because you actually have to add weight back into the head. Also, mini drivers are becoming popular again, so that's another option. This helped me keep the ball in play more, but I got that added distance and forgiveness versus a fairway would. Eventually, I did get to a point where I could go back to a normal length driver shaft and not lose any accuracy, but that did take a lot of work. Either way, if you're someone who wants to play their best golf and lower their handicap the most, you have to think critically about this. Tee shots are so important. Don't just assume that your shorter clubs are better off the tee. Your hazy memory of your rounds is really not enough information to absolutely know you're right there. I realize not all of you are going to do the testing I suggested with the shot tracking system or a launch monitor, but I promise you a ton of you watching this video are in this category. way. If you want to learn more about tee shot strategy, I'll put a link to my 4 Foundations of Golf video course. I'm also going to include some other resources from coaches like Scott Fawcett that I really like on this topic. And don't miss my other video where I see if a $700 launch monitor can perform as good as one 10 times the cost.